muet or something like that. I don't know, y'all. I can't. So hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Shadiamond, and in today's video I'm going to talk about something that I've been asked quite a few times. The question is, how do you go from teaching your child the letter sounds to getting them to blend? Or my child knows each individual letter sound, but when it comes to blending, we're having trouble. So in today's video, I'm just going to share a few tips, and I'm also going to share a few activities that I do with my girls. I'm going to have them do something in the video too, just so you can see how it's done. And yeah, just provide you a few tips. So if you don't understand what I mean by blending, blending is simply taking the sounds and then putting them together. So say for instance, we have N and the A. N, it says N, A says eh, and your child is able to say nah. Or you know, something like cats. They know that C, individually C says k, A says eh, and T says t, but together the word is cat. And so I think a lot of times, especially like if you're not a former teacher, because even I had this mistake myself, we kind of think that that is an easy thing to do, but it's really not. Like it's really challenging, and I've experienced it with both of my girls, although their learning journey is different. So and even with Eliana, as I mentioned in my other videos on the mistakes on how to teach your child how to read, I mentioned that, you know, I taught her sight words or whatever. And when it came to like blending, things were hard, so she would just guess random words anyway. And so I thought it was just her, you know, knowing the sight words and remembering and just guessing based on the first letter. But in reality, like, a lot of people have that issue. The first tip that I'm going to give you is to make sure that they know the letter sounds correctly. So what I mean by that is, like, say for instance we said B says buh, or M says muh. You know, that's not correct if they want to blend something together. M says and I know it's crazy, because I'm like, what the world? Like, why do we say muh when it's The thing I had to do with Eliana was kind of like figure out what's the different approach. Like what approach would work for her, because like even though she knew the individual sounds, she had a hard time blending. So say for instance we did it, instead of her saying sit, say something like dog or fish or something random that she saw, but she didn't. Like, it's a skill that you have to learn. And so what I had to do was retract back to going back to saying it orally. So say for instance I said something aloud, like I want you to listen to what I'm singing, and then I want you to say it after me. And that's something that the Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons books it does. But like, yeah, say for instance I said at mat, and then I told her to repeat after me, or you know, something like that. And I had to practice doing it orally without her seeing any pictures, because they will guess with pictures, without expecting her to know what to say at the end, or just training her ears to hear the different sounds. And there are a few hands-on ways to do that as well, but that's my first tip, trying it orally. Like with Keziah, the 2-letter blends was not an issue, or the 3-letter blends, because she was used to me doing it for Eliana. So say for instance if I said nah, she would add an extra letter at the end because she was used to the CVC words. And so that's how I was able to kind of get her in the groove of doing that. But I did it orally first, and then once they got like an understanding or master of like what they're hearing, then we can move on to something else. So here's my next tip. I want you to do it hands-on. So something like using magnets, something like putting dots under the words, something like using Play-Doh for them to mash or whatever so they can know the individual sounds, or something like using the math cubes to kind of point out the different sounds that they hear. Okay, so with Keziah, I practice using these worksheets, and so as you can see, they have dots under each letter. So say for instance they are going to do this word, gum. And I think that this is so important because they're able to like touch what they're doing, and then the arrow tells them to kind of blend it together. So each individual sound and then blend, and they can do something like use a card or something to put on there and roll it, whatever they're interested in, whatever you think that keep them more engaged and active, then I would suggest to use that. But I'm going to show you how Keziah does it.
Lib.
That's right, but that's a D. So D says what?
Lid.
Lid. So the word is lid. And I also want to know that sometimes, you know, they can understand the individual sounds, but also like confuse certain letters. So with Keziah, she's confusing sometimes the lowercase b to lowercase d, which is very common. So we just work on that. But I guess the reality of it is she's active. She's pointing to each individual sound. So she's understanding that sounds make up one word. And then once you do the individual sounds, then she blend it. And so this set right here, I can kind of link it. It's not, I didn't make this, but I purchased this set. It also comes with pictures, but again, I skip pictures because they get to guessing. And you don't actually know that they understand what they're reading. They can, you know, anybody can guess based off a picture. And that's how a lot of us get confused, that, you know, we understand, we give our child something new and there's no pictures and they're like, they don't know anything. So yeah, my next tip is going to be utilize word families. And word families are basically just letters grouped together to make common words. So say for instance, at, an, am, it, things like that are considered word families, because if you add letters in front of it, it makes up different words. And so this is the approach that I had to go with Eliana, because she was able to point out the word family, but she wasn't able to go like from the beginning of the word. So say for instance for cat, instead of her reading at, we had to go to the end of the word and do, we know this word says at. Now if I add a C in front of it, what would the word say? So that's how she learned how to read. Ma'am, why are you doing all that? Okay, so I'm going to use my magnetic dry erase board and just to show you like one exercise we used to do for her. So I'm going to write something as simple as this word. And what is this?
Am.
Am. But if I add an S, what would it be?
Sam.
If I added CL, what would it be?
Clam.
If I added this, what would it be?
Jam.
These are considered, well, these words, and, am, it, and things like that. These are, ooh, sorry. So things like, okay, you still can't see.
I can see in the camera.
Okay. So we're going to start with this, which is at, right? And so basically you want to ask your child like, what's this word? They can sound it out because it is decodable. If you need to, you can also put the dots under the letters so they can know to point to each individual letter to help them like track what they're doing. So say for instance we have at. If they already know that word says at, then all you have to do is add letters in front of it like this. So Eliana, if I add
Sat.
If I add S, it would be sat. If I add, let me try to do something hard for you. If I add two letters, what would that be? Slat. So she knows blends and she's a little advanced, but basically what I'm saying is with word families, you basically take the end of this word and just manipulate the beginning. So what's that?
Sat. At.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a sense word, like a word that's real. It can be just a nonsense word, meaning the word is not an official word, but it's something to help them practice. So word families was definitely our way to go in terms of teaching her how to blend. And I think it'll be more beneficial if you was like put the word family in a different color and then write the consonant or the beginning letter in another color. And I'm just gonna show it like this so it can be visually differentiated, if that makes sense. So hold on. So this is what I mean by, I have a blue marker and a purple marker. I'm gonna do the word family in blue. So this time I'm gonna do am, and then I'm gonna write whatever I want her to change the words to in purple. That way she can know that this is what we're focusing on. We know this word is am. So any consonant or whatever letter we use in front of it, we're changing only that. And this will give them a visual. My biggest thing is understanding that it takes time. Like for some children, they can grasp it easily. For other children, it takes them time. And it's not that they're behind, it's just certain skills are mastered at different times. Because as I said with Eliana, it took us some time to master CVC words and blend it all together. With Kazaya, because she heard, you know, me doing it ahead of time, it was nothing for her to just repeat what I was doing. So another resource I recommend are the block books. In the beginning, of course, we're not trying to speed through each of the books in the set, but I'm showing you that block books are decodable books, and these are the books that you would want to gravitate towards as opposed to like a sight word reader or most beginning readers, because they're not for beginning readers. Again, they're playing with the Magna-Tiles. So I have Miss 3-year-old. She's about to read to us. That's what it say. So, okay, let's go. Sam. Sam and cats. Can you speak a little louder for us? So with this one specifically, she kind of decoded every word, like Sam, and she knew cat because she read it so much. So this what happens. And I want to say in the very beginning, stick to like 1 to 2 word sentences. So say for instance, I sit, I dig, it is. Something like simple. Because it may frustrate them, because they don't want to sound out 3-4 words they didn't forgot what they read. So the good thing about her is she naturally go back to the first word she read first and then read the word that she decoded next. So it's great to build upon one word, and you can do that by like placing just one word at the top and then 2 words, then 3 words. That way they can get a little comprehension of what they're actually reading. And so I think that's very important. This is something she did naturally, and I'm so proud of her. Start with 2-letter blends first, you know, 2-letter blends, and then move on to 3-letter blends. Some children will not sit down and just look at a paper and do it. You kind of have to make it interactive. So whether that means putting a paper on the wall and having them point to it, maybe even having them stroke something with Play-Doh or paint or whatever the case may be. However you think your child will learn best, you have to cater to their needs. But the step in which you do it, you know, it's important too. So it necessarily means that you have to do it like early in the morning or late at night. It's kind of like whenever. You can do this when you're in your car, when you're riding down the road. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say a word and I want you to tell me what it starts with. Cat. What did that start with? Like, what's the beginning sound? Or what sound do you hear last? You can do this in your car, you can do this in the kitchen, you can do this outside and walk into the park. Like, you can get your 5 minutes in anywhere. And I really suggest doing it outside of home or while they're up and doing something they like to do, as opposed to sitting down at a desk with paper and you just saying read. All children are not like that. All children would not want to sit down, especially toddlers. They want to play all day. They want to play. They just do, and that's what they should be doing, playing. But that doesn't mean that we can't teach them what they need to learn in a playful manner. You know, you just have to gravitate towards what they do. So like I showed the Magna-Tiles. Something else you can do is the Lego blocks, which I'm about to go get. So yeah, wait. So these are some old blocks, and as you can see, I was writing like words on here. This was big, and what I would do is take individual blocks. I will write them on with a dry erase marker, or you can put some tape on a permanent marker and do it like this. And say for instance the word is big. Whatever thing they put on here can be their sound. So say for instance b, I, g, big. If they like to build, which I know a lot of children like to build, use their blocks. Or if they just like to match, let them match. Like, eventually it's going to come. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Trust me, you will teach your child how to read. They will read when it's time to read, and it varies for different ages. You have to be interactive. Things like that stick. Things like that draw connections. Things like that is very helpful for children. So just give yourself some grace. Give your baby some grace. They're learning. Some things are harder than others. You know, some things come later than others. Some children take a long time in the beginning, and at the end they speed through. Because guess what? Children are different, you know? And so besides the word families, something else that I really realize is that sometimes some children need like continuous sounds at the beginning. So say for instance, or s, as opposed to something like t, k, you know, something like that. So some children will need you to elongate each sound, like s, at, sat. And some children would just need s, at, sat. So you have to figure out which way your child grasps the best, because my girls did it differently. So if I didn't have that experience, I'd probably be kind of like stuck on one thing. But that's the thing, I also utilize a different like reading coaches. So there are pages on Instagram where I inbox them because they, you know, they taught reading, you know, they were sharing different things, and they were like, okay, if you had any questions, just send me an inbox. So I inboxed them and I asked them like, okay, my child is struggling in this area. She knows her sounds, like what do I do next? Some said, you know, teach them about syllables, you know, the beginning sounds of a word, work on phonemic awareness, phonics, you know, see what sounds they hear and how many sounds they hear. That plays a part into things too. So it's a lot of different things that you can do. Hopefully this video was helpful. If I didn't go into anything specific, just leave me a comment below. If any of these were helpful, or if you tried any of these and they were successful or were not successful, I would like to hear that feedback as well, because I want to be able to help as much as I can, because listen, I've tried pretty much everything. And I kind of just use what worked for each child. No comparison, because they would definitely leave you feeling like, okay, maybe this one is not as smart as the other one, or maybe I'm doing something wrong, or whatever the case may be. I have a video on different learning styles. You can check that out to, you know, help you gauge like what you should do for your child. I also have a video on like the mistakes that I made when I taught Ileana how to read. Yeah, thank y'all for watching this video. I thank my children for cooperating, because as you heard in the video, they were playing with magnet tiles. They was running up and down the hallways. My baby was just making noise and biting on everything. So it's real.